Hello, everyone. It's me, your favorite guest host, Xander Tabler, and I am here with three wonderful game designers from FFG, and we're going to do a little bit of character creation and gameplay for Legacy of Dragonholt. So all three of you have been on streams before. What would you like to refresh fans with who you are and what you may be working on?
Sure. I'm Philip D. Henry. I am the line lead for Descent Legends of the Dark.
I'm Aaron Haltom. I'm a designer on Descent Legends of the Dark.
I'm Brooks Flugaur-Leavitt. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a game designer on Descent Legends of the Dark.
Awesome. So, obviously, we have our Descent designers here with us today. We're playing Legacy of Dragonholt. It's December, so we're going to talk a lot about Terrinoth and the lands of Terrinoth and the people there, and really just do a celebration stream for that today. So to start us off, we have just a little bit of stuff we want to talk about when it comes to Descent, obviously. So Aaron, would you like to share a little bit about what's going on?
Sure, yeah. So I'm sure you've heard of Act 2. Act 2 is coming, and we'll have a small little teaser spoiler for you at the end regarding Act 2. So just get your Act 1 playtests in now. Get your Act 1 playthroughs in. And
that's
make
why
sure...
Josh Massey isn't here. He's not caught up yet.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, Josh.
He was so afraid of spoilers, he gave himself a fever.
Yep. You have to be done with Act 1 to play today.
Okay, so it's a continuation of the story from Act 1 then.
Yes, yeah. It's all...
We won't be spoiling much from Act 1, but there are some things we just can't talk about with Act 2 without some spoilers, so...
Yeah, by the time the full announcements come for Act 2, you should strongly recommend you get to the finale of Act 1.
If spoilers are a problem for you.
Yes. Awesome. So yeah, dust off the box, get it out there, finish the story, and be ready for Act 2 when it comes out. We also want to talk about some of the Terrinoth novels that tie into some of the story that's happening there. Brooks?
We have one more note about Act 1, which is you will need the Act 1 box to play Act 2.
Yes. There's a lot of useful stuff in Act 1 that it didn't make sense to just reprint. So, like...
Dice,
tons of map tiles,
dials,
all that stuff. So we could put more cool stuff in Act 2. You need Act 1 as well, because you're going to be reusing a lot of the terrain and a lot of the tiles and the
focused
dice and
on
monsters.
Cool new plastic.
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll be continuing on the same story of the same characters, following them as they grow. So you'll want to have played Act 1 before you play Act 2.
Awesome. Super exciting. Cool. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about some of these Terrinoth novels that are out?
Yeah, so Legacy of Dragonholt is kind of the start of modern Terrinoth, as it were. The last 5 or 6 years of products set in Terrinoth have been much more tied together than the setting has been in the past. So Legacy of Dragonholt has a story. The Realms of Terrinoth sourcebook for the Genesis system for the RPGs. This contains basically a lot of the background lore about the setting in far greater detail than it had ever been written down before. We also have all of the Aconite novels that have come out and that are yet to come out. One of them that tells stories that are related to each other and related to the story of Descent, and Legacy of Dragonholt ties in a bit too.
Yeah, there are some locations and characters in Legacy of Dragonholt that are going to show up in Act 2. Because of where we are on the map, Legacy of Dragonholt is right there. You'll recognize some landmarks on the new world map. You'll go there a couple of times. So it might be people who like to see the interconnected nature of an IP like this could get a real kick out of being familiar with Dragonholt before they go into Act 2.
And you won't need to consume any one piece of media before consuming the other.
It's not requisite knowledge, but it's nice little Easter eggs and nods in an interconnected setting.
Awesome. Well, we're going to hop into character creation, so that way we have some time at the end to start playing a little bit. We're going to do character creation a little differently today. The three game designers here have already created their character, and you all in the chat are going to have the option to create my character that I will be playing with. Casey over there is going to be adding some polls, so please vote accordingly for what you'd like to see me playing. Please be merciful and give me things that would be useful.
Should we introduce our characters so that they know what you'll be playing alongside.
Yes, we'd love to hear a little bit about each of your characters, who they are, and then we'll kind of go down. We'll do like race, class, and background, and then skills eventually, and then you all will get the chance to vote on each one of those accordingly. So yeah, who would like to start us off?
Yeah, I made a character named Duran. He's an orc apothecary from Tamalier. I'm a Descent First Edition was my first big FFG game, and Tamalier is your base of operations in that game, so of course I had to be a character from Tamalier. Duran grew up as the son of a couple of laborers who wanted better for their kid, so they really pushed him to get an education, and he turned to being an apothecary and making things that explode, because it's fun. So that's Duran.
Sure. I'm playing Garn, who is a catfolk wildlander from the forests of Kel. And they grew up living off the land, a nomadic existence, hunting and traveling and evading bandits there in the forests of Kel. So they've had a hard life so far, but they do appreciate, having a family and a support system in that sort of way. So they sort of live the nomadic wildlander ethos of everybody sticks together, takes care of each other, evades trouble wherever we can.
I am playing Squire Maureen Gaffer. They are a human knight class, but my idea for this character is that they were in training to be a knight and then were essentially disappointed by the corruption of the nobility. Then they left and settled on their own to just do whatever good they could by themselves, be a hero without necessarily having that title or that prestige.
Awesome. So yeah, we've got a good synopsis there. So do with that what you will. Make our party balanced, or it's all up to you. We're not going to tell you how to build the character for me. But yeah, so we first want to start off with race. If there's just a little bit you want to talk about your own, Casey will put it up in the chat for the 3 remaining races for you to decide for my character.
So I just want to say something about characters in Legacy of Dragonholt. Legacy of Dragonholt is a narrative game. It's focused much more on experiencing the story, so that your character is the vessel through which you experience the story. There's far fewer mechanical features than there would be in, say, a conventional role-playing game. And it's important to include some of the character's personality as well.
Mm-hmm. The character creation rules really encourage you to pick skills based on what you've decided on for a background for what your character has done before, what their aspirations are, things like that, rather than any real solid mechanical limits of these are the skills you're allowed to choose. Any character can have any skill. There are a couple that you are required to take based on your race and your class, but then you can just pick anything. If you want a knight that uses runes, go for it.
That's awesome.
I cannot use runes, I'm sorry to say.
I got you covered.
So my character has military and dueling and endurance from their knightly training. They also have willpower because they're committed to doing good in the world, and empathy as their one social skill. They have a knowledge of history, and they have the crafting skill because their family were glassblowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Duran has athletics and survival as their orc skills because they grew up kind of in a family of hard workers, laborers. Alchemy and craftsmanship from their education, and then they picked up awareness, reasoning, and runes because everything's a puzzle they want to solve, and those are things that help them do that.
Awesome.
And Garn has agility, awareness, and stealth from being a catfolk, Hirinx. Naturally just agile and stealthy. And also from the Wildlander upbringing, archery, endurance, and awareness.
Yeah, every character can have 5 to 8 skills. The more skills you take, the less stamina you have, so there's a trade-off there. I went pretty heavy on skills, so my stamina is only 10.
Ditto.
If you have
12.
5 skills,
Yeah,
you
you
have
have
14
12,
stamina, and so on.
Awesome.
You just write with a pen on a character
We have a
sheet.
winner.
Dwarves won,
Dwarves.
38%.
Ooh.
Amazing.
All right.
Dwarves. All right.
Elves and gnomes are tied at 30%.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Interesting.
a nice three-way.
Yeah.
That's close. Okay.
It's only
Yeah.
98%. I don't do the math.
It rounds.
It's fine. It's fine. Cool. If you want to ask them, what would you like my class to be? So I'm a dwarf. What am I doing? What is my class here and what would you like to see. And if you also have an idea for a name for my character that you would like to drop in the chat as well.
Oh, that's risky.
That's risky, but as long as it's not like character face or anything, will be good. I think. Give me something better than that, just slightly.
And while Xander's creating this character now, if and when Josh finally finishes Act 1 and Josh plays, Josh will have to play this character.
Yes. So actually, if you do want to make Josh's life miserable, even better. Sorry if you're in the chat, Josh. We're going to call you out a lot this stream. Cool. Yeah, so what made you all choose your classes? Like, what was your inspiration behind your characters?
I mean, this is kind of me after college.
It's you after college? Okay, so you're playing yourself. I love it.
A little bit, yeah. I don't want to go too much into detail. It's a long story.
That's fair.
But it was something I could like relate to very quickly and easily, and so then sort of not worry too much about my character and just focus on the story I'm in.
Awesome.
Mine was a visual thing. I think I had this idea that when I wanted to be a catfolk, it would be a lynx-like catfolk that was like tough and rugged and looked like an outdoory person. So
Nice.
Wildlander.
I love it.
And I always like to play against type, so I'll play the big strong wizard or the.
You cast punch.
Yeah, and in this case, I love what orcs are in Terrinoth. They're not what we see in a lot of kind of more genericized fantasy. Orcs are an established race that is allied with Terrinoth. They're not savages who live out in the woods. They're way cooler than that, and way less reductive than that.
Yes.
They're people that an orc who lives in the free city of Tamalier and is educated and a bit of a coward and prefers to run away from fights, because fighting's really dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So what Phil is playing is what, at least in the RPG terms, is called a stone dweller orc. Those that have settled and lived in
Yes.
cities, and many of the even within the RPGs that give certain mechanics to them, there's a lot of distinctions for what the culture that you have is. So there's were you living in the cities? Were you living in a noble held territory that's more feudal, nomadic kind of thing?
Awesome.
We have a winner.
Have a winner.
Bard at 52%.
Ooh,
You
strong.
all are so nice to me.
Strong for Bard.
Yes, I am a big fan of bards, so I am all about it.
Nice.
Great, so now we have to decide on skills. So Casey's going to throw a couple more in the polls. The top two of each, the race skills and the class skills, will be assigned to me, and we're going to talk about some other ones that I might be able to add if you all don't decide on it. So I'm going to pull this up real quick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What do we want my bard dwarf? What would be a good skill for me to have?
Well, so the skills in Legacy of Dragonholt are divided into a couple of different categories. We have combat skills, which you can use to fight things. Physical, but also alchemy is there. We have physical skills, which are just what can you do with your body? Are you sneaky? Are you fast? Are you tough? Are you strong? Mental skills, what do you know? What are you aware of? Social skills for relating with other characters, and then utility skills for assorted things that kind of don't quite fit into another category or do other different things. If you're a bard, you play music.
Yes.
So, or sing, or dance, or perform in some way. So I would look at those social skills. The social skills are deception, empathy, persuasion, and streetwise. And so which combination of those you take, or that the chat picks for you, could set up the tone of how do you perform.
That's fair. So I'm going to say the chat might be picking performance for me already from the utility skills. So yeah, I'll
So
leave
we're
it.
doing the class or the race first.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. So a dwarf, what options do they have? So I make sure I don't choose any of those.
I picked athletics, willpower, craftsmanship, and history.
All right. So I think I would despite being a bard, being a little tougher, if I'm going around singing, if people don't like what I have to say or anything, being a little tougher might not be a bad idea. I'll be a little bit away from the normal bard class. So I think I might go with endurance. I think, just do something a little different. And I'll choose that as mine. And then we'll say
Are you a singing bard? You have very good breathing control. Your lungs are real strong.
I think so. Yeah, I think I have a very good ability to sing. I don't think I know what I'm singing about all the time. I don't think they're going to choose history. They might, but we'll see. I think I just sing for the sake of getting the attention.
Epic poems, sagas.
Exactly.
Tell stories.
And so, what do we have, Casey? What are our results for that one? Oh no.
1 second. Oh, here we go. History and willpower.
History and willpower.
Oh, well, there we go.
There we go.
You're the knowledgeable bard.
So I might be
You
singing
were
about.
wrong.
Yeah, I might be singing about things that people may not want to hear about with history, and might be not. The endurance might come
Tell
in
the
handy.
people what they don't want to hear.
Exactly, things they need to hear.
Speak truth
they may
to
not
power.
want to. We'll go into the class skills, and then I'm gonna let's choose another one. I think I'm gonna lean into social skills, like you said. I think persuasion. If I am gonna be speaking truth to power, I'm gonna try to win people over to my side here. I
think our characters are going to be good friends.
I think we're gonna get along well. I think our party is very cohesive already. So I think as long as they don't choose persuasion, it seems like the place to be. They might be choosing it. Casey's giving me a funny look right now, so we'll
A lot
see.
of people want to hear you sing.
Oh,
so.
no one wants to hear that. I'm so sorry.
Including Josh. He is in the chat.
Josh will be singing next time we play, though. That is a fact.
Oh.
He will have to write an epic.
No, I might have a thing that day.
It'll be pre-written by us, checked through everything. We'll have a full history ready to go. Do we have results yet for that one? Or we'll wait.
Have a few more seconds.
Yeah, well, you have a few more seconds then. No worries.
Someone else
good?
want to talk about how skills work? in
Yeah.
this game?
Yeah. So this is, as Brooke said, a narrative game. Throughout the game, we'll have the option to make a few choices. For example, do you investigate the broken window? Do you climb up the chimney? How do you get into this house? That kind of thing. And if you have some skills, you can only choose if you have the right skill, or some options you can only choose if you have the right skill. And when you play with more than one player, you can play this game solo. It works really well solo. It works really well in groups of up to 6. When you make a decision, you flip your activation marker down so somebody else gets to do the next one, which kind of means your skills are all on cooldown. If I'm the only one in the group who has knowledge of runes, and I'm busy because made the last decision, that means my skill's functionally not available for the group to choose. So we're not rolling a die and making a check. It's just, does somebody have the skill and the ability to act? Then you can choose this option from the chart.
So the tactical side of it is anticipating what's coming down the pipe so that we know who to leave.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
You're stealthy, but you can't necessarily stealth all the time. You can't necessarily hide the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm clanking around in armor.
Yeah.
And this game does a really cool job of tracking what you've done throughout the storyline. It has this nice big story resolution tracking sheet here.
I have a sheet more.
Where
you got the big
it will
check mark.
periodically, if you snuck away from the bandits before, you get some additional interaction with them later, or you can only choose this option if you did this other thing before, and the game tracks all that. Brooks, you pointed out earlier today, it's a lot like how the app for Descent tracks everything.
Yeah.
It's an analog version of the way Descent uses variables and things behind the scenes to track performance, and this is an analog interpretation of that. As you can see, it requires a lot of books to do that.
This makes you appreciate what we all put in the background.
This is the core book for Legacy of Dragonholt, and it is. It doesn't actually have page numbers; it just has entry numbers. It is a lot of pages.
And that's the book for exploring the village.
That's just the
Centimeter
village.
and a half.
Each of these other books is one of the adventures you'll go on.
Yeah,
in
so-
between those, around those interstitial village moments.
Yeah, we have basically anything that comes in the box is laid out here on the table. If Alex wants to show that real quick. Besides the scenario that we're going to be playing today, which is 2 New Roads, correct?
Yep.
So we already have that one open because we're kind of getting ready for that already. But this is the rest of the contents. We'll explain some of what we already have and what we've done when we get to that part. But let's finish making my character. Do we have results?
Performance at 31%
Okay.
and persuasion at 27%.
Oh, I have to choose a new one then.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, no.
All right, so you have enough skills now.
Empathy was
I-
22%, so you could do
Empathy?
empathy.
That's pretty close. I'll add empathy. I think we'll have 6 skills. That'll feel good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that leaves you with 12 stamina.
Cool. 12
which
stamina.
is pretty solid.
I feel good.
You can go all the way down to 8 in character creation if you go really heavy on skills.
Oh, wow.
The way stamina works is if at any point your stamina is reduced to 0, you choose one of your skills to disable. You can't use it again until you manage to rest and recover that, and then you gain a point of stamina. So you never stay at 0 for long. So if your stamina keeps taking hits, you keep losing skills, and it's harder to do things because you're tired.
Makes sense.
On the subject of how much writing there is, can we tell them how many words we're at for Act 2?
Yeah, I think
That's all up to
that
you
genie's out of the
all.
bottle. You mentioned it. Fair. We are in the process of gathering all the writing for Act 2 and sending it off for some external review for things like sensitivity and make sure we're not breaking any established rules within the IP. And we're at about 150,000 words.
Wow.
So that's a couple of novels worth of text.
That's awesome.
It's a whole book.
A whole book.
Separate-
Multiple books. Yeah. All right. Did you have anything else to
Are
say?
you going to name your character?
I would love to hear what
Well, I
you
wanna
all
know
had to
what
say
Chat
about my
came
name. What seems to be the
What do
most
they get?
popular? What are people talking about?
So we have Dwarf Bard named Grom Gloomstone.
That's a
Don't be
good
a
one.
bard named Brad, please.
Don't be.
That's a long name. Don't be a bard named Brad.
That's a really good name.
Yep.
No one would forget it.
What else we got? These are all just them making fun of you.
Oh, no. That's a bummer. So Grom Gloomstone, that correct? That's the
Grom, yeah.
I love it. That's what we're going with.
Good job, person that gave us a serious suggestion.
Yes, thank you, whoever you are.
Brad the Bard is pretty good.
Yeah. Brad.
That's the point, you know.
So yeah, we are going to get started. Phil, would you like to give us kind of an update on where we are? We skipped a couple of the points, so we're not doing too much reading,
Yeah,
and we want to
we-
show you a little more gameplay than just reading walls of text to get us into the
We have been
scenario.
called to the village of Dragonholt, which is near Arcaut, the capital of Terrinoth. It's a small village. A woman named Lady Celise has summoned us. She has some concerns. We got this cool letter. I got this letter from her. This is worth reading, I think. It gets us the setup of the hook that's bringing us to town, and then we'll advance a bit through the story so we're not so we can get right into the action.
And this is something you would see right away on starting the game, so this is not a spoiler in any significant way.
Yeah.
Although there may be some clues in there.
My friend, I pray this letter finds you in good health for once. I need you to travel. Interestingly, once is misspelled. As you might have heard, I have taken a position as a tutor in the household of Lady Regina Fairfax, Countess of Dragonholt, just outside the village. I elected to take this position because I hoped for some peace and quiet after that business in Narrakal. Had I known what my future held, I would have done something else entirely. Lady Regina's 3 children are more than lively enough to deny me anything resembling peace or quiet. Even now that they are mainly grown, I remain very busy. But I did not write you to complain about my lot in life. As you know, I never complain, even when the so-called dwarven wine is very obviously an inferior human vintage. Again, or when my favorite cloak, the blue one, is stained by some drunken lush spilling his wine. Elves really should stay out of human taverns. I write to you because I fear something sinister is at work here in Dragonholt, and I require your assistance. I dare not say more openly, as I think it is likely this message will be intercepted. I can trust no one here to help me with this matter. After that business in Narrakal, I have only you and a small handful of other allies left. Please help me. There is more at stake than you know. Celise. There are some interesting tidbits here. A number of words in that letter are misspelled. And on the back, it says, please refer to my first letter.
I don't have a
This is
first
the
letter.
first letter we've gotten from Celise. Something is afoot. So we set out to Dragonholt. On the road we met Braxton, a knight errant. She is an orc from, I think, one of the Free Cities. And her traveling companion Miriam, a very excitable gnome. As we enter into the forest, we have heard rumors of bandits, and that there are some things, and we know from Celise's letter, things are a little bit suspect. So we've read a few entries in the book already, and we come to entry 3859. Eventide Forest is an intimidating landmark. and you can see why Braxton was concerned. Within an hour of entering the forest, the thin young trees give way to ancient, gnarled guardians. The light leafy canopy transforms into an oppressive shroud that cloaks the road in darkness, even during the most sunny of days. Time passes. I mentioned that we have these tracking sheets. One of the things we're tracking on the 2 New Roads adventure is the passage of time. So when it tells us that, we'll mark it there. In the darkness of Eventide Forest, chilling stillness reigns, and even bird songs are drowned out by silence. You continue onward, Miriam's usual banter quieted by her new mood, one part fascination and one part fear. Braxton keeps an ever-vigilant eye on the surroundings, her hand now resting on the pommel of the blade at her waist. You soon come to a stop when you catch up to Miriam. She's glancing down what appears to be a small game trail that branches away from the main road. Up ahead, you see that a number of fallen trees are blocking your path. An old crossroads signpost marks the split, but the wood is too rotted and the writing is indecipherable. What do we do now? It doesn't seem like Lady Regina has been alerted yet. Braxton strains to look over the fallen trees. We could clear the road ourselves, or send word to Lady Regina once we reach Dragonholt. We could try this trail, offers Miriam. Maybe it connects to the main road on the other side, so now we have some options. Scout along the game trail and report back, climb over the trees and continue on the main road, or clear the road of debris before continuing.
And none of these require any skills, so
Right.
we can choose to do any of them. But they each imply us going to do a different thing that we may be more or less well suited
And the person
for.
who makes that decision is going to flip their activation marker down so that they won't be able to make anything until... These will refresh once they're all exhausted so that we kind of cycle through the players and take turns making these calls.
Sure. Well, I think we should clear the road of debris before continuing. We should just
I think that
do a good deed.
that sounds
Yeah.
responsible. So we're going to go to entry 3962. Brooks, you made that decision. Do you want to
Yep.
read?
Yeah, so 3962, which happens to be on the same page, although that's not usually the case. Braxton produces an axe from her baggage, and you set to work, clearing the trees from the road. Breaking each tree down into pieces small enough to move isn't complicated, but it is tiring. Your shoulders burn from swinging the axe, and your back aches from dragging the enormous tree limbs off to the side. Miriam busies herself with the smaller branches. When only larger bows remain, she helps by singing a gnomish working song that seems to include invented verses mocking you, Braxton, herself, gnomes in general, Eventide Forest, and any other subject that catches her fancy. 2 time passes. We have half of our time has passed. That is interesting. We each lose 1 stamina that applies to all of us, and lose 2 additional stamina unless you have endurance. I do have endurance.
I do not.
I do as well.
You guys. Oh, I'm so tired.
It's hard out here for an alchemist.
There's an entry explaining stamina, which Philip already did, that if our stamina drops to 0, one of our skills will be disabled. We'll get some back. At length, you and Braxton roll the last and largest of the tree trunks to rest against the side of the road, then collapse atop it for a brief rest. You are done. Good work, says Miriam, offering you each a drink of water from a tin cup. We should mention this in Dragonholt. It'll really help me get my business off the ground if people know I helped clear the road. Braxton glances over at you over her drink, but says nothing. Mark story point F7, if you would.
All right. F7.
So that may come up later. And read entry 8557.
Before you read that, would you like to show off those 2 sheets right there?
Yeah.
We can put them out here in the middle of the table so that way you all can see where we're marking off time and different points in the story on these tracking sheets. These are just printed versions of the ones that come in the books.
We have PDFs of these tracking sheets on our website, so when you play, you can print out your own copies. So 2 New
this
Roads
way.
is going to track. Oh yeah, camera.
More at an angle.
More at an angle.
Like so. Avoiding
tilted.
glare. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. I got you.
I'll let you do that. So this tracks all the entries we read. It tracks our time. Other quests track other things. So there might be a whole mess of different tracking sheets. And then the overall story tracking sheet there should have all their hero names on it. But I was lax in that duty.
There we go.
We started with some fame, started with some gold. Those things will increase as we do cool things.
All right, we're at 8557. After following the winding road for what feels like hours, you begin to fear you are traveling in circles. Just as you are about to suggest turning back, Miriam calls out from beyond the next bend. There's a clearing up here. As you round the bend, you see Miriam staring up at a single massive tree that stands alone in the center of a clearing some 20 paces across. Although the great oak's canopy is just as thick as anywhere else in the forest, its branches reach well above the tops of the surrounding trees, affording you a view of the sky at the edges of the clearing. If 3 or more time has passed,
It has.
35:49. Otherwise, we would read a different entity.
Yeah, so already some consequences for our action.
Yep, for taking a long time to clear the road. It's already night. No wonder I feel so tired, Miriam mutters with a large yawn. Sure enough, when you look up, you see stars sparkling brightly in the vast emptiness of the night sky. You note how brilliant they seem so far from the torchlight of the city. At the edges of the clearing, several paths cut through the dense trees, leading away from the great oak in different directions. Only a few seem well traveled, but none are marked by signs. Braxton, too, has noticed the myriad options for further travel. We should get our bearings before making camp for the night. Miriam rolls her eyes at Braxton's suggestion. We can use the sun as our guide in the morning. I am going to sleep. With that, she takes out a bedroll and makes camp at the base of the great oak. We have another decision to make here. We could determine your heading by observing the stars. That requires Arcana, Devotion, or Survival as a skill. We could convince Miriam to read the stars before she sleeps, which requires Empathy or Persuasion. We could climb the great oak to look for a landmark, which requires Agility or Athletics. Or we could leave the navigation to Braxton and turn in for the night. I have already activated, so I cannot use my empathy to help.
I'm inclined to use my survival to read the stars.
I think that's a great idea.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will do that. And then we go to 2172 as the active character. I'm happy to read that. You gaze up at the stars, walking a slow circle around the great tree in the clearing center to get a better view. You take your bearings from the constellations and find Latariana's star. You are now confident you know which way to go to reach Dragonholt. Mark story point L1.
And what is Latariana's star in Terrinoth?
Latariana is an ancient elf.
Yes.
You,
I was asking as a prompt.
you're asking me. You know this way better than I do. Latariana was an elven queen that was...
Well, she's one of the first elves who were exiled to Manara, the world, with the dragons as their keepers, basically, and is an aspirational figure for the elves to go back to.
Yeah, as Brooks mentioned, this is Legacy of Dragonholt is kind of the beginning of what we refer internally as modern Terrinoth, where we started really making this setting its own cool thing. As much as I love Descent First Edition and Descent Second Edition, they don't really delve into the lore that much. There's a lot. We had a lot of cool things we knew about internally that those games, which are focused on having adventures and letting your heroes do hero things, don't really get into. So if you want to know the lore of Terrinoth, Legacy of Dragonholt, the Realms of Terrinoth book,
The new novels.
the Aconite novels, and Descent Legends of the Dark are all going to really dig in pretty deep in there. We've made some very deep lore cuts in Act 2 that I'm excited to get out to people.
Awesome.
As you make your way back to the campfire, you feel something small strike the top of your head. It's a small wooden statuette. You look up at the branches of the great oak and notice a number of small pages and other trinkets tied to branches or resting on tree limbs. You gain the wooden trinket, item B. So there are a deck of item cards. They each feature an illustration and a little bit of text. Not a lot of mechanical stuff. These are clues and things for later. Wooden trinket. You found this intricate wooden trinket at the great oak and Eventide forest. It looks quite old. A heart is carved into the wood containing the letters T and U. So we have this card to reference later. Wasn't sure we had that hooked up.
It's not. There it is. We do not have a close-up camera. T and U.
I wonder who that's about.
I'll keep that right there.
You return to the campfire and show the trinket to your companions. What do you make of it? Asked Braxton. I'm not sure, says Miriam. I think this was carved by a human or an orc. Too rough to be made by an elf. Probably just some harmless local custom. Miriam tosses the trinket back to you.
Looks like a carved badger or bear or something.
Yeah. Looks like a badger of some sort. Are we able to show it up? Cool.
85.49. You assist Braxton in gathering some kindling and start a small campfire a few paces from the great oak. While you work, you can hear Miriam humming softly to herself. You sit out your bedroll and relax. Although you are all tired, a brief chatter on the campfire is not an unwelcome event. Ask Miriam what she plans to do in Dragonholt. This requires that story N3 is marked, which it is. Ask Braxton what she plans to do in Dragonholt. This requires that story E7 is marked, which it is not. Neither of those exhausts your activation token, or we can go straight to sleep.
And we've both exhausted our activation tokens, so one of you are going to do this.
I guess I'll make the call and say we talk to Miriam since
All right,
we
so
have
that
the...
does not exhaust your activation token.
Oh, yeah, one doesn't.
We're
Yeah.
still ready to go.
We go to 35.79.
Would you like to read down? Oh,
Sure.
otherwise, I'm happy to.
Sure. I'm glad you asked, bubbles Miriam. I am going to set up the finest apothecary shop that Dragonholt has ever seen. I'll brew potions and sell remedies and make lots of money. She nods, tossing a vial of pink liquid into the air, catching it, and balancing it on her finger for no particular reason. My aunt can help us get started. She already runs the best inn in town, and she's a fantastic tailor, too. Miriam flourishes her half-cape and brightly colored tunic.
Fancy.
We can ask Miriam what types of potions she brews, ask her about her family, exchange brewing recipes with her, which requires alchemy,
And I'm exhausted. So
but you're
okay.
exhausted. We can compliment her attire and inquire about its maker, which requires craftsmanship or empathy.
Both of which I have, but I'm exhausted.
I'm
I'm too tired from cutting that wood.
We can
Oh,
tell
sweet.
Miriam. We can tell Miriam what you know of Dragonholt's markets, which requires history or streetwise. Or we could educate Miriam on methods for barter and trade, which requires persuasion or streetwise.
We have a lot of options. I've
A
got
lot
a
of
lot of those
options.
skills.
Yeah.
I think. Well, let's ask the chat. Would you like us to ask about the Dragonholt's markets, methods for bartering or trading, or would you like us to compliment Miriam if you think Miriam's attire is perfect as well?
Half capes are very fancy.
They are. So yeah, this has a lot of options, and since luckily, I mean, it worked out well that I had not exhausted mine yet. Otherwise, some of these options may not have been on the table. I mean,
Yeah.
you also had some.
You have the most social skills, I think, that are
Yes.
relevant, at least to this particular choice.
Yeah, so it just happened that it worked out well that I had not made a choice yet.
Yep.
I cut the logs, move them.
Yep, you cut the logs and move.
You find our way through the forest.
Yes.
I hope it's not a social thing. That's our next choice.
Oh
that I
no!
have to
Yeah,
do.
a follow-up, another social choice,
Yeah.
and you were out of luck there. You said, "Oh great, have a good one," and then you let her go on her way. All right. Well,
Any preference?
let's see what people said. Maybe.
Compliment.
We are going to compliment Miriam's attire and inquire about its maker. All right. That'll be 1942.
And so that is a choice, so that will exhaust
me,
whoever's
yes.
doing that.
That is down. All right. You compliment Miriam's clothes and make a few astute comments as to the skill with which they were made. The cape in particular seems like it both tightly woven and brilliantly hemmed. You like it? Asked Miriam. Aunt Safi made it especially for me. It keeps the sun off and the rain. I think it looks dashing. She holds her cape out in her arms and makes a few swishing motions, letting the fabric billow around her. Mark story points D4 and M3.
Done.
Ooh.
All right. 2 or more time has passed. We read entries 70, 94.
It has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more than that has
more than that.
passed.
More time.
Yes,
Getting
maybe.
70, 94. All right. What about you? Asks Miriam. What are you planning to do in Dragonholt? Before you can answer, she hunches over and crooks one finger like a sinister hook, putting a sneer into her voice. Are you seeking vengeance on a terrible foe? Just as quickly, she swoons, throwing one hand artfully over her forehead. Or are you in search for love? Miriam tumbles backward over a log with a squawk. She grins up at you from a pile of sticks and leaves. Or maybe it's just a chance encounter. She continues to talk about everything and nothing before finally pausing for breath. So we have a couple more options. We can ask Miriam about Eventide Forest. We can ask Miriam how she met Braxton. And we can ask Miriam about gnomes. And you
It's
do
up
not
to
have
you,
any skills
because
that
we'll-
we need.
Oh, and none of them require skills.
Yes, you have wide open choices
go.
here.
I guess I'll pull I think the forest would be my, primary interest, unless.
I agree. So we'll find out about the forest.
All right, 2306. I've heard all sorts of stories about Eventide Forest, says Miriam. I've even heard that there is a secret kingdom somewhere in the treetops, where elves and fairies dance in the starlight, hidden from the eyes of the gnomes. She shrugs and looks up the mossy tree branches. I don't believe half of it, though. I think it's just a big, dark forest, and people are scared of anything they don't know anything about. Also, there's bandits, says Braxton from behind you. If 2 or more time has passed, read entry 1096, which it has. So...
A hidden fairy kingdom and bandits.
2 of our favorite things, right?
Miriam lets out a long yawn.
Two of my favorite things.
And you second the motion. As you nestle into your bedroll for the night, Braxton speaks up. Best we don't all sleep at once. I'll take the first watch. Can I count on you to take the second? You nod your agreement and drift off to sleep. One of you must volunteer to keep watch. Refresh your activation token if you are keeping
So we
watch.
should all have these refreshed because we
Yeah.
refreshed
Okay.
things. So
So that part's a moot
Since
point.
we've all
Although
gone,
this
now
is
we're all
going
ready
to
again.
exhaust everyone except the person who is
Oh,
Great.
Yep.
flipping back. Who would like to make the next decision?
Who
is
wants
the
to
thought
stay
here.
awake? Are we allowed to read up forward before we do that? No, probably
No.
not. We should
No,
probably choose
we
now.
can't know what's going to happen.
I mean, I will.
Would you like
But
to
also, you're the forest expert if you want
That's
to.
true.
So
Yeah, we either want somebody tough and or somebody aware to be the guard, probably, right?
Yes, our social
and
person.
maybe someone who isn't scared of fighting.
Yes. I'm just good at
I'm
singing
not
and talking.
scared. I'm appropriately cautious.
Sure, you can.
Okay.
Go for it if you want to.
Sure.
Can you?
So, one of you volunteers to keep watch. Activation tokens. 2 time passes,
Puts us at 6.
and we each recover 2 stamina. Which
Oh.
I'm good.
Let's me back up.
You rouse from your slumber to gentle coaxing from Braxton. Your turn at watch, she says quietly. You rub your eyes for a moment and sit up, taking a drink from your canteen to wake yourself. You glance around camp at your fellow travelers. Braxton prepares her bedroll, lies down, and is quickly asleep. Miriam stirs for a moment, possibly awakened by the brief commotion, and rolls to her other side. A gentle silence takes hold of the clearing. Your journey to Dragonholt has been a long one, but now you are no more than half a day's travel from your destination. The crack of burning branches from the campfire keeps you company as you keep watch. The moon is beginning to set, and you know the light of a new dawn will soon grace the forest clearing where you have made camp. Just then, you hear a rustling in the thick brush on one side of the camp, and recall Braxton's warnings about bandits. I have to make this choice, because I'm the only active person. I could watch for further movement or signs of danger. I could arm myself and take a closer look, or I could wake my fellow traveling companions. I'm going to get right into the thick of things. If there is any thick to get in the middle of, I'm going to arm myself and take a closer look. This option does not exhaust my activation token. Read entry 1654. What's that rustling over there? You grab your weapon and slip out of the camp, circling around towards where you heard the sound. As your eyes adjust to the darkness, you move silently from tree to tree and soon find yourself behind a small group of rough-looking people lurking in the bushes and watching your camp. Bandits! Mark story point X1. We have marked quite a few story points already.
We do. Yeah.
There are 3 bandits directly in front of you, 2 men and a woman in torn and stained clothing and scraps of leather armor. The woman holds a strung bow across her knees as she crouches, while one of the men has a spear and the other a long knife in his hand. Wasn't someone on watch by the fire? Asks one of the men. I don't see anyone there now, says the woman. Quiet, says the other man. Wait for the signal. They clearly haven't noticed you. Just as clearly, they're intending to attack your traveling companions. This is a good audience question. Should I shout a warning to my traveling companions, or draw my weapon and engage the bandits? Unfortunately, I cannot sneak up on the bandits and ambush them, because I do not have the stealth skill.
Oh,
no.
We should have let you.
Shouldn't have left me.
Oh, no. All right.
So, fans, should I warn my friends, or should I attack my enemies? I assume both will happen very shortly after
Yes.
the other, just whichever happens first.
Whose cry of alarm is going to wake us up? Yours or the person you hit with a sword?
Yeah, I'm nervous now. Bandits here watching, and there's a signal already set. Okay,
This is in the whole group.
yeah,
It's a good
But
thing
they
we're
didn't
full
know
on
I'm
stamina.
here.
yeah, that's true. We
So-
we have a leg up there. Oh no, I wish you could have snuck up on them and surprised them. We could have a little domino effect. But we will see. Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't stay awake. I would not have been useful in this situation at all.
Well, an interesting thing here is like, you have stealth. You would have had the third option.
Yeah.
But I have some combat skills. I don't know if you do or
If,
not.
it
You have-
was brawl, then I wouldn't have been able to help. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have some combat skills, so if I just attack them, maybe I'll have an advantage.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if I get everyone up, that'll presumably there'll be some benefit for us.
Hole says, warn friends.
Warn friends,
50%.
I will shout a
you.
warning to my traveling companions. Reading entry 9943. Which exhausts me, readies everyone, because everyone else was exhausted, and I'm still the active player at the moment. You shout a warning and rush back into the camp, hearing the bandits swear and move to follow you. We're supposed to wait for the signal, hisses one. That was the signal, shouts the other. As you skid to a stop by the campfire, you see Braxton already on her feet with her shield in hand. Miriam is still staggering out of her tangling blanket. What is it? Grumbles Miriam. What's going on? Bandits, rumbles Braxton as the half-dozen of the desperate-looking figures run into the firelight, weapons held high. 4,300. Well, good. That worked out all right.
Yeah.
We're ready for the fight here. Braxton hefts a heavy steel shield, that's going to be heavy, and slashes her longsword threateningly at one of the approaching bandits. Miriam produces 2 flasks and unstoppers one of them. A thick, acrid smoke pours from its open mouth as she holds it aloft, ready to throw. 3 of the bandits suddenly rush forward, charging the camp. Miriam hurls the smoking flask, which smashes against one of their bucklers. A billowing cloud of acidic fog erupts from the impact site. The bandit shrieks and flails, dropping his buckler to the ground as it dissolves. Oh, wow, okay.
She's coming out strong.
We should have asked her what was in those potions then.
Yeah. The 2 other bandits continue their charge. One swings an axe at Miriam, but Braxton catches the blade with her longsword and slams her shield into the man, sending him tumbling to the ground. The 3rd bandit dodges around Braxton and darts forward straight toward you, spear point trained at your chest. Any of us can be active at the moment here to intercept this bandit. Someone could dodge the attack. Someone could catch the spear and disarm the bandit. Someone could deflect the spear and counterattack, which requires either dueling or military. Or someone could blast the bandit with a rune, which requires arcana or runes.
I do have runes. I could do that last one if we wanted.
Fire away.
Yeah.
I will.
You already got the book. So we're going to blast the bandit with a rune. Phil's going to be the one to do that. Or Durin is going to be the one to do that. And that will send us to entry 3607.
You produce a blasting rune from a hidden pocket. With a violent thrust of your hand, you channel the arcane energy from the shard into the ground before the charging bandit. The earth swells before erupting in an explosive spray of molten shrapnel. That's a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. The explosion occurs closer to you than you had anticipated, and you throw yourself to the ground to avoid the shower of shattered stone. If you do not have agility, lose 3 stamina. Okay.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Glad I got a little nap before. When the dust settles, you see the bandit lying motionless beside the smoldering crater. Sorry. Your story point H3 is marked, which
Shouldn't
is
have
not.
attacked us in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Otherwise, read 9513.
So it sounds like there's a story entry we're not getting because we didn't mark a point before.
Yep.
Maybe when you play, fans, you will have something different happen there.
Yeah, this game does like I said, it has this whole tracking sheet. It's very reactive to choices. There are things that there's a box I might have marked on here that pays off 6 adventures from now.
Which is also what we do in Descent Legends of Dragon.
Yeah, like I said, it's a very analog version of all the tracking we can do in an app-supported game.
We can have an action, set a variable, and come back and check that whenever. We go back and check Act 1 for variables to have affect things in Act 2.
For Collar and Harmon, bellows Braxton. In the flickering firelight, she seems a demon from a nightmare, huge and dark and powerful. 3 of the bandits attempt to surround her, but she pivots away, slamming her shield into one and knocking her down, then slashing at a second and sending him screaming into the dark, clutching at his face. She trades blows with a large human, his axe sliding off her shield, her sword flickering past his face as he dances backward. You notice a bandit with his hair in a long braid creeping up behind Braxton with a knife glimmering in his hand. Focused as Braxton is on her battle with the large bandit, she clearly hasn't noticed. Intercept the approaching bandit, catch the bandit from behind, or stop the bandit with an alchemical concoction. Clearly, I'm too tired.
You're busy.
I just blew myself up a little bit.
What was the second option?
So, intercept the approaching bandit, which kind of feels like a main option.
Yeah.
Or catch the bandit from behind, kind of maybe feels like a middle option.
exactly.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's
Let's catch the bandit.
And
92
that-
feet.
0.
Oh, that's right there. Moving as quickly as you can on silent feet, you drift up behind the braided bandit. He lifts his knife, ready to bring it down into Braxton's neck, and you reach to grab him from behind. If you have stealth, read entry 4545, which I do.
Hey, look at that. We
chose-
successfully guessed that the sneaky person should sneak.
We chose correctly this time. 4545. You grab the braided bandit from behind, twist and pivot him around your hips, sending him tumbling to the ground with an undignified yowl. As he struggles to stand, you plant one foot on his back and shove, sending him sprawling yet again, this time into your campfire.
Ooh.
He screams and shoots to his feet, running in random loops as he attempts to beat the flames out of his hair and clothing. He staggers into another bandit, sending both sprawling, and then you shift your attention elsewhere.
Well, this was the right
before.
decision.
Fighting is really dangerous, guys.
We've been pretty brutal so far.
Read 2004. Your companions are still locked in combat with the bandits, who swarm around the edges of the light provided by your campfire. Screaming incoherently, a scarred bandit rushes at you. In one hand, he brandishes a studded iron mace. The other arm ends in a steel hook, its metal glinting in the firelight.
It's the guy out for vengeance from the story.
Yeah. We can rush forward to engage the bandit. We can brace ourselves to receive the charge, which requires military. Flee and attack at range, which requires arcana, archery, or thievery.
But does not
But
exhaust
does
your
not
token.
exhaust our token.
But you two are exhausted.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's one
And
of
I
each
do
one
not
of each.
have any
Any
of
of
those
those
abilities.
All right, I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I'll take this one. I got him. I will brace myself to receive a charge with my military skill. So that's going to send me to 8310. Put all that training to good use. You see a discarded spear lying close at hand, so you snatch it up. Oh, one of the guys did have a spear earlier. Bracing the butt of the spear against your foot, you line its steel point up on the onrushing bandit, set to receive the charge. At the last moment, the bandit shifts direction to slip past your spear. If you have agility or empathy, I do in fact have empathy, although I'm not being very empathetic with it right now because I'm using it to interpret which way he's coming at me. Okay, 5481.
Well, that's what I'd do if I was charging at someone with a spear.
The bandit shifts direction to slip past your spear, but you shift with him and the spear point drives home into his chest.
Oh.
The bandit gasps, his hook and remaining hand both coming to scrabble at the haft of the spear, tearing it from your grasp, then falling backwards with a thud. 2399.
Oh man.
And that one exhausts my activation token. You find yourself standing in a loose circle with your companions and no bandits close at hand. Even more of the enemy emerge from the trees, however, and they begin to surround you. This is a lot of bandits.
Yeah.
We're not carrying that
is more
many
organized
valuables.
than
I don't feel
This
like
is
I
a
do.
little suspicious.
Yeah.
What now? Breathes Miriam. You're sure it's the first time you've heard fear in her voice. The bandit's leader chuckles and speaks, causing the firelight to play off the long scar on the side of his face in a sinister way. Drop your valuables and leave. There is no need for you to die here. The other bandits hoot and howl and brandish their blades and axes in the air in front of you. Braxton glances sideways at you. There are too many of them. We cannot win this fight. She edges backward, and you notice her lean in the direction of Dragonholt. You can't have my gold. I'll be using it to start my business, hisses Miriam. Despite the bite in her words, you notice her hands trembling. And this is going to have to be you, because we are all exhausted from
Oh,
the
gosh.
fighting.
Which one is it? 2399?
Yeah.
All right, so I can fend off the bandits long enough for the others to escape. I have to have the skills of brawling, dueling, or military, which I do not.
All right,
So,
not doing that.
Yep, I will not be letting you all escape. I'm sorry.
We're all winded from our fights.
I could create a diversion and flee toward Dragonholt. I need deception or performance, which we do have. That would be fun. I could create a smoke screen and escape toward Dragonholt. I do not have alchemy, unfortunately. Or I can turn tail and run. Well, I think the choice is obvious here. I will create a diversion and flee toward Dragonholt using my performance skill. So 5280.
While singing.
While singing, of course, yes. It'll be quite the song. You aren't watching us escape, it's fine. 5280. So, using the darkness to your advantage, you throw your voice, making it sound as if soldiers are approaching through the trees. The village guards, yells one bandit. Here? Leg it, lads. It's a trick, you credulous clods. Below the bandit leader, you bellows the bandit leader, but the panic that ripples through his minions is enough for you and your companions to slip away. After them, read entry 3645.
Okay. And this has exhausted your token, which then readies all of us.
Yes, so we are all good.
Good job.
I had those skills for a reason, and gosh darn it, if I'm not going to fight, I'm at least going to make sure we escape.
And did the audience choose perform for you?
Yes, that was one of the ones that you all chose very
Thank you,
well.
audience.
Thank you. Saving our pick.
Yes. All right, so you run through Eventide Forest, scrambling and stumbling as you go. You are surprised to discover that you can see, and you realize that the sun must already be rising somewhere beyond the trees. Time passes. The narrow and twisting path soon comes to a steep climb with a rocky outcropping that rises above on either side. A large standing stone towers to your right. You can hear the bandits still coming behind you, shouting to their fellows like hounds on the hunt, but any pursuer will have to scramble up this narrow gulch. So we have a couple options. We can tip over the standing stone to block the path. We can fire your bow from the high ground, requires archery. Or we can set a trap for the approaching bandits. We need survival as a skill for that one.
I want to shoot him.
Shoot them?
All right.
I haven't got to use my bow
Arn is
yet.
done getting pushed around by these dang bandits.
Yeah, 223. You settle yourself onto a rocky perch above the path and wait for the lead bandit to come into sight. Arrow knocked to your bowstring. Soon, with a shout, a tall, dark-skinned human with a shock of white hair leaps onto the trail. He rushes forward, axe in hand, and you draw back your bow. If you have awareness or willpower, read 8202, which I do have awareness.
Oh, excellent.
You draw back your bow and send an arrow straight through the lead bandit's heart.
Oof.
He falls, but is soon replaced by a dwarf woman with an eye patch. You put an arrow through her remaining eye,
Damn.
and then into the arm of the orc man who is next into the gap. He bellows and pulls back, and you hear confusion and more shouting from just out of sight. You have the bandits at bay.
I'm starting to see why we started with 2 fame.
Yeah, kidding.
Well, right. There was that adventure we all had in Naracall. That's how we know. That's how we know Celise.
Yep, so that was good.
What
With the
happened to
bandit,
Naracall? Is Naracall going to be like the Budapest of the setting?
Yes, back then.
The thing that, well, maybe
You and I
that's what
remember
happened.
Naracall very differently.
That's not actually what happened in Naracall. It's a different event. Legacy of Dragonholt takes place a couple of years before the events of most of the novels and Descent Legends of the Dark.
Awesome.
Okay, with the bandits preoccupied by your efforts back at the gulch, you are able to gain a considerable lead on them. The rocky terrain continues to rise up around you, the trees of Eventide Forest becoming smaller and scrappier as you go. Soon you come to a sheer cliff face, only a few scraggly trees clinging to the rocks rising above you. Sunlight spills across the sky above the cliff, a promise of freedom and safety. You could climb up to the top, but it would be a challenge. The path continues to the left a fair distance, then becomes a tight switchback, crawling up to the top of the rise. It would be a safer route to the top, but slower than climbing directly. So we can either climb the cliff face or run for the switchback path. Neither require a skill.
Neither require a skill now.
Right.
They could require a skill later.
Right.
Or we are getting close to time. So do we want to leave it here for those at home that want to play this so they don't know how this may end? If they drop- Yeah, we'll leave it on a
Yeah,
cliffhanger.
A literal cliffhanger.
A literal cliffhanger here. Because we do have one more thing we wanted to talk about before the end. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. Thank you for creating a character that helped us escape, because that was
Yeah.
very helpful for us. And so, yeah.
Form
Phil-
was real clutch.
Yes, oh my gosh. Thank goodness. Philip, would you like to give us our final little announcement for the day?
Yeah, at during our Gen Con shirts, we spoiled the box for Act 2, that lovely purple thing that I'm really excited to finally get a print copy of.
Please.
Aren't we all?
And how'd you like to know the title? For some clues about what might be in there. Act 2 of the campaign is called The Betrayer's War. People who are familiar with Terrinoth lore might recognize the antlered skull on the cover of the box. They might know that there's someone out there who has the epithet of the Betrayer. Josh, stop listening now. He shows up at the end of Act 1, and who knows where it goes from there.
He's got a couple other epithets, doesn't he? As
Yeah,
well?
let's see, Wykar the Undying. Wykar Sumerian is just his, name, it's just a regular old name.
Yes, I know plenty of
Does
white
he have
cards.
other?
Those are the
Others
big
in
ones.
his pocket?
There's one or two others, but
He's the Lord of the Mistlands, and he's got a few undead kicking around.
All right. So you heard it here first, the Betrayer's War. Stay tuned into our socials for more information in the coming months about it. And thank you all for joining us today, and continue to, again, stay tuned into our socials for the rest of December, as well as our 12 days of giveaways. If you haven't already commented for today's, give it a look and drop your answer for it. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for participating and doing some lovely narration and storytelling with us. We'll see you all next time. Thank you.